Hi, I'm Michele Burghardt with Mareck Marketing Group. We help businesses and professional service firms market their intangible services by helping them build trust, gain credibility, obtain top-of-mind awareness. Those are the things that we really focus on. And today what I'd like to discuss in this little 20-minute segment is what's your brand really saying about you? You know, I think people don't necessarily understand what the job of their brand is, and they have a tendency to think it's a logo. But you know what? Your brand is really designed to evoke a positive emotion among people that see it. And you'll see that, just do it, the Nike swoop. Well, everybody, when they see it, they get excited. It's kind of that little subliminal, oh yeah, I can do it kind of thing. And that's basically what you want to build with your own brand. Now, it could be a personal brand if you're an independent, maybe you're an attorney or a consultant, and you really are your business. So that's your personal brand, or it can be the brand of your firm. It doesn't really matter, because either way, what you really want to do is you really want to focus on what's it really telling people about you. It's not just the logo, and it's not just your letterhead or your brochure or your website. It goes so much deeper than that. Your brand includes how you answer the phone, or how your staff answers the phone, what your sales materials look like and feel like, how well you actually deliver the work product, or how much quality is your product. It encompasses every single thing about your company. And what happens is that if you don't pay attention to what's going on with your brand, then it's really being managed by either your competitors or the market in general. And that's never a good thing, because you always want to know what's going on with your brand. And so we're really going to talk about kind of like how do you pay attention to that, and what do you look for? And that's where we're going to spend our time today. When you manage a brand, in essence, what you're really doing is you're managing the emotional attachment. I received the nicest compliment one time from a gentleman who's, my name is Mareck Marketing Group, and my logo is very classic. It's not anything fancy or trendy. It's just classic, and I didn't really give it a thought. And he said, when I look at this, I really feel like you are a really well-established firm. Which I thought that was really such a nice compliment, especially because at the time I was probably 8 months old. And for him to say that, I really thought, wow, wow, I did that not on purpose, but I wish I could say I did it on purpose. But it was so great. And so those are the kinds of things you want to do, because you're creating that emotional attachment, because that essence is perception is reality. So if your clients and prospects perceive you as the best, then you're the best. And then, so you're really talking about controlling their emotional response to whatever they see or hear as it relates to your firm or yourself if you're building a personal brand. So let's look at things through the eyes of your client. I think that's one of the mistakes that we as business owners make, is that we kind of think about everything from this side of the desk rather than through the eyes of the client. And the client is what counts. So when you really look at your brand, you want to ask yourself these questions. You want to ask yourself, do you really market your product or service for what it is? And what I mean by that is, are you selling maybe a maybe an inexpensive widget? But if you're selling an inexpensive widget and you're using words like, groundbreaking and, quality and all that kind of thing, that's just not going to resonate with your clients, because it's not really made possibly to reflect the quality that you think it does. So what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure, because your expectations, the client expectations, are not going to be able to be met. So you're already starting right off the bat where you're not meeting their expectations. See, they have already forgotten that they paid less. They paid a less amount. you get what you pay for kind of thing. Well, they've already forgotten about that. All they're really focused on is the value. So if you're not giving them the value that they think they're getting, they're going to be disappointed. So you're already one step out the door. So be aware of that you use the right language when you're describing your product or service, and just make sure it matches. Now, I'm not saying that you want to put, well, we're the cheapest and it's going to break in a day and a half. No, you don't want to do that. You just want to represent it fairly and honestly so that their expectations are aligned with reality. That's the important thing. You really want to look at too, the next thing is, how do you talk about your business? How does your staff talk about your business? Are you excited? Do you like what you do? Do your staff like what they do? When you're out and about, do they talk about it in a positive way? Because you know what? Do you want to do business with people that hate their job? Can you not tell when somebody hates their job? And that's really hard. It's really hard. So if you talk about your company with excitement, people are going to get excited. They're going to think, ooh, this is cutting edge, this is exciting, there's new things going on. And everybody wants to be with the cool kids. I know that sounds really silly, but it's a psychological need. We want to be where things are happening. And if you're quote unquote happening, then again, it's building that positive brand. It's attaching a positive emotion to your brand, and that's the important part. The next thing you really want to look at is, well, let's look at your website, okay? If it's outdated, what is that saying? What's that saying? If there's typos on it, what's that saying? If there are articles on there that are 10 years old, what's that saying? What does that say? You're looking at this through the eyes of your client. Now, I notice those things, and I don't know if it's because I notice it because I'm a marketing person, or maybe I'm just a little kooky, maybe both, I don't know. But, I can't imagine that somebody is reading your website and they see typos and they see spaces that shouldn't be there, and they see outdated articles and all this stuff, and that leaves them with a warm fuzzy feeling. It just doesn't make sense that it's going to leave them with a warm fuzzy feeling about you. It just doesn't. So you really want to take a look at your website, clean it up, make it look like your business, you're professional, and that kind of thing. And again, I see this not even with small startup companies. Companies of nice size do this as well. It's all of us, because we just don't understand how important it is. And it is important because you know what? Once that emotion is out into the world, once people feel a certain way about us and our firm, changing it is so difficult. So building your brand and managing your brand is really a priority for you, because it's going to make your life easier in the long run. So take a look at your website, make sure, just clean it up, make sure it's where it should be, and say the things that you want it to say and all that stuff, because that's really important. The other thing I want to kind of give you an idea about is if you rush your client off the phone. And I know sometimes we don't have time to spend as much time with our clients on the phone as we would like. And again, if you do this in the right way, then I think you're going to again align the expectations. Hi Jim, yeah, I've got about 10 minutes. I'm on my way out the door, but let's talk for a minute or two. If you say something like that right at the get-go, then they're going to know that this has to be a short conversation. That versus, I gotta go, click, then they're going to be like, well, they didn't even have time to talk to me. Again, a brand builds emotional response. So anything that's going to affect that emotion, good, bad, or indifferent, is worth managing. So rushing, and again, look at how you like it. If you're talking to a supplier or a vendor of yours and they rush you off the phone, you think the same thing, but you understand if they give you a heads up that it's got to be a short conversation, it makes a total difference in how you deal with that and how you feel about that conversation. So just be just be aware of what goes into your brand. Because I know these things don't sound like a big deal, but if you put them all together, it's creating a big emotional response. Okay? The next thing is, and this is something that really personally, the next two kind of really bother me on a personal level. If in fact you or your staff have logoed shirts and you wear them to wash your car or mow your grass, what does that say to somebody that sees you? I really find that, I just find that really hard. It should be, if, a lot of companies will buy their staff logoed shirts to wear at golf tournaments or to wear at, at exhibits or trade shows, that kind of thing. And, you can always control what they wear them for, when you're out and when they're not at work. So, make sure that they know this needs to be in good repair for the trade show or for the use that you have it designed for, so they don't go out and wash the car with it. And they don't go out and take out the trash with it. This is your company, and it's such a disrespect. And when people see the fact that you're disrespecting your company, but yet you want them to think you're all that. So just be aware of the things that affect people externally that you can actually control. It doesn't cost anything to do it. So that's one of the things that really kind of bothers me. There's nothing worse too than if, you're all in your logoed shirts and you go out to a bar and get drunk and rowdy, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how cool your clients are. If you're out there making a spectacle of yourself, that's just bad press. And that stuff sticks. So if they're gonna go out and get drunk and rowdy, just make sure they don't have your company name on. Let them change their clothes first or something. So, the other thing that I really think is hurtful is if you have a store that has lighting and the bulbs are out. Again, it shows neglect, and I hate the thought that people would think that you're neglectful of your business. And if you're neglectful of your own business, how is that going to translate into theirs? And that's important. So, kind of put that along with just that kind of that image thing, is just make sure all your P's and Q's are dotted and crossed and all that stuff. The other thing is you want to look at if you have strict policies or not. And I have to say, I had an experience myself where I ended up running an ad, and it was my fault that I ran the ad. I only wanted to run it once. It ended up running twice, and it was a reasonable amount of money. And I called them, and they were like, "You know what? You didn't mean to run the ad. You don't have to pay for it." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh." So then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what can I do to say thank you and to help you and to, what can I do? What can I do to help you?" And I'm so grateful for this. Either that was my response, but now I don't know if I would have had the same response if they would have said, "Well, I'm really sorry, Michelle. You know what? It is what it is. So, you got the bill, we expect payment." So, and I'm not saying again, you can't not get paid for things, but that's just an example of, be flexible with things. I have a policy where you pay 50% up front and 50% at the completion of the project. It's industry standard for the marketing industry. And I had one of my clients said, I'm not going to do that. And all I could do was laugh. I was polite and everything, but I just laughed and I said, "Okay, well, whatever you want to do." I'm not going to lose a client over how they pay me. As long as they pay me, I don't want to lose a client. So you want to make sure that you're flexible enough and that you're not viewed as somebody that's so strict that you can't be flexible to the needs of your client. And that's important as well. The other thing is take a look at, along with your website, take a look at your sales materials, like your brochure and your handouts or any leave-behinds or anything like that. Make sure that they're not, there's no coffee stains, they're not wrinkled. The other thing you want to be careful of is that they're on a decent paper, because that is something that tells a lot about a company is the paper. If it's really cheap paper, you can feel it, and that's not really a message that you want to send to people. Plus, it doesn't look as nice or take the ink as nice if you print stuff in-house. So just be aware of it, of the tactical, the tactile, as much as just the sight and sound and all that. It's how it feels too. So be careful with that. The other thing I want to talk about is how your office looks, and if you have an office, and you want to make sure that it's congruent with your culture. And what I mean by that is, if you are trying to portray a look of I'm hip and I'm trendy, we're hip, we're trendy, we're cutting edge, and then when they walk into your office, when clients walk into your office, it's 80s floral prints, there's going to be a disconnect there. And you don't think it matters, but again, excuse me, I had that experience myself. I walked into a company that does hearing tests, and they sell hearing aids. Now, in my mind, and again, it's all on me, but in my mind, this is a medical field. So I went in expecting a medical office. And what I got was an office that was really in the need of some repair and updating. It wasn't dirty, but it just needed repair and updating. And it was such a disconnect in my mind that I really had a hard time wondering if this was going to be a good fit for me as a service provider. So if I felt that way as a service provider, imagine what a client would feel like, or a customer or a patient would feel like coming in. Would they feel that same disconnect? It just didn't mesh. So just make sure, and I'm not saying that you have to have the most expensive, beautiful, decorated office. What I am saying is make sure it matches your culture. If you're selling, bath beads, match your culture. If your culture is comfortable, then your office should be comfortable. If your culture is much more buttoned up and professional, then your office should be buttoned up and professional. It should just match your culture so that you don't feel like things aren't kind of off kilter when people walk in. And again, it's those nonverbal cues that happen that we're not aware of. So much communication is nonverbal. So that's just one of those additional nonverbal communication cues that goes on that we're not even aware of it's happening, but it's happening. So just be aware of that. So, okay, so we've kind of talked about some of the things, and again, it's really anything and everything. If you walk in and there's, a piece of paper on the ground and everybody walks past it, that can be part of your branding. And, again, it happens. I'm talking from experience that I've had. I know it sounds silly that people would do it, but I've seen it done. But, that's branding. So you want to manage it. And how do you manage that? And the way you want to manage it is to be aware of it. You really want to be aware of it. Now, you can do things, technology. You can, there's reputation monitors, so you can do it that way. And you can find out Google alerts and those kinds of things, so you can find out if there's anything online about your company. The other thing that I will really recommend that you do is make sure that you're all on the same page. All your staff is on the same page, from the very bottom to the very top. Everybody should be on the same page, and they should understand how you feel about it, what's important to you, and then maybe use it as a training opportunity for all of them. Maybe they can help you determine what aspects of your operation are really part of the brand. So it could really be kind of a team building exercise if you wanted to do that. The other thing I want you to do is just make sure all of your sales material is cleaned up and consistent. And I think this is one of the major keys, is not so much that doesn't have to be high-end everything. The message, however, should be consistent. If you talk about your business in one voice, it needs to be the same voice on every piece of literature and every piece of written communication that you have, because that is going to that's going to be that solidifying that brand. If they're comfortable with you when they read your website, then they're going to be comfortable with you when they look at the brochure. They'll be comfortable with you when they read the sales sheet. They'll be comfortable with you when they look at the contract, because it's all going to be written in the same voice. So consistency is extremely important when you're talking about building a positive emotional base, and that's what you want to do, okay? You've got your staff on board, you're monitoring it. I think if you just pay attention to what's going on and then plus use your monitoring tools, I think you're really in a good place. You have a little bit more leeway if in fact you, like with current clients, because you've already convinced them that you're great. But if you kind of go in and don't make a good first impression with prospects, you're always you're working in that prove it mode, and that's hard. It's hard no matter what industry you're in. If you have to prove it every time you do something for your client, that you're doing it right, or you're providing value, or all these things, it's just, you're kind of starting, below par. So, you've got some leeway with current clients, but that first impression is really important with, with your new prospects. So that's probably all the time we have for today. If you would like more information about branding, or if you just want to chat or talk or ask me some questions, or if you want to do a free marketing review of where you are right now, we're happy to do that for you as well, and that's complimentary. So you can contact us at info@mareckmarketing.com, and the number is 314-669-2512. And thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and that's all for today. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.